Okay, while I'm giving advice on the chain tensioners on the Stromm frame, it's still, like I said, it's a great design. I'm not crapping on it. And I love the, what we want to call the C or the scalloped axle stop. The one other thing I didn't mention that really has nothing to do with bending it is you don't, as with anything mechanical, you don't want to operate it, anything out on its far extremes, because that's when the edge cases is when things start to fall apart. And what I mean by that in regards to the chain tensioners, the only issue I've had, I hadn't bent mine, and I only made that last video to answer some questions that people had asked me whether or not I had any problems. But the only one issue I did have was was being lazy and didn't change the chain and had to fully extend my wheelbase to accommodate the gear I was using and the chain I had on there. And to that, this is what I mean by operating on the far end of extremes. So this C or axle stop is basically has a hole drilled through it and a hex bolt head that goes all the way through. And then the threading on this chain tensioner bolt goes into this thumb screw. It's very, very, very simple design. The problem was I, stupidly, was at the far end of the chain tensioner, and I'm adjusting the wheel side to side. And what I didn't realize was I cross-threaded this very fine thread into the thumb screw, and it screwed up the threads. And it was only on one side, and eventually I kind of retapped it just by working it through back and forth in the thumb screw. But you can definitely tell this is the one that's not cross-threaded. The other side was definitely stiffer. So, short story long, don't operate anything on the far end of the extremes and blame it on the mechanical device. It's operator error in that case. And so just try to have a reasonable wheelbase, not something crazy like this. And the last thing I'll mention is tighten your screws that hold the dropouts inserts in. They have a tendency to back out. Either, I'm wondering what the cause is, and I mentioned this to my friend Kenji and his son Enzo and his daughter Akira. What's happening is, depending on what kind of knurled washer you use on your axle nuts, hopefully they're independently rotating and not part of the actual nut, which causes galling. And to that, what's possibly happening, and these are on the small, this particular axle nut is on the smaller end. The washer, the knurled washer on the axle nut is grabbing the head of the screw, and as you back out your axle nut, it's actually grabbing the head of the screw and loosening it. The only ones I've had it come loose were, ironically, the ones in the center. And because, again, I try not to operate my wheelbase to the point where my axle nuts are hanging off the very back. And so, like, I don't think it's any coincidence. The only ones that I've had come loose and just not fall out, but loose, are the ones where the axle nut is grabbing. So a little more on the Stromm frame idiosyncrasies.